And welcome to the Poe Museum. I'm Chris Sipner, the curator. This is Edgar the cat. He's held for just a little while longer, but he just wanted to let you know that he's doing okay and he's still well fed. And that disembodied voice from behind the camera is APT, the interim executive director. And we're here just to show you some of the things that you can't see while we're closed. But I wanted to introduce you to some of the Poe sculpture in our collection. So we call this Poe 3D. So put on your 3D glasses and 3, 1. But here is one of our largest pieces. This is the Actors Memorial to Poe. This was commissioned back in 1882 by the Actors Guild in New York. His parents, the sculptor is Richard Henry Park, whose name you can see right there by the foot. Yeah, Edgar's helping us out by pointing that out to you. They had the author, the historian, write the inscription right here. Expressing a deep and personal between the stage and the literature with a quote from Horace here, from one of his odes.
Hey guys, Edgar's jumping on stuff.
I'll
I gotta
grab Mr. Edgar.
Sorry.
That it's the highest mountains get struck by lightning. So it's saying that, you know, Poe was one of the greats. That he was one of those great high towers, lofty pines. But because he was so great that he also fell the hardest. So that's what we have this line, he was wretched in his death. There's that romantic notion that he was the poet maudit, the mad poet who just couldn't survive in this society. And this dedication exercises, when they unveiled this, they really played up the angle that he came from humble stock, that his parents were struggling actors, that he wasn't born with a lot of privilege in his life, that he really just had to make his own way in the world. You know what they said, the Dexys? We have a transcript of the dedication exercise. Before the symphony came out and performed, and the greatest Shakespearean actor in the country, Edwin Booth, presented this piece to the city of New York. Now, Edwin Booth is today probably best known because his little brother shot Abraham Lincoln, but back then, Edwin Booth was the Alec Baldwin of the family, and maybe the Billy Baldwin, although Billy Baldwin's done some good work. But
Hey Chris, can you talk to us about the ceiling on this, around the top of this?
oh yeah, this was on display in the Metropolitan Museum of Art up in New York City. It officially was presented in 1880. And in 1926, they decided this sculpture was old-fashioned, it wasn't in keeping up with the latest styles, so this was taken off display. It hasn't been on display at the Met since 1926. So in 1993, they offered it to the Poe Museum to before in 1940, the Poe Museum couldn't take it, but in 1993, the museum agreed to take it. It had to be displayed somewhere indoors. If you've ever been to the Met, they have higher ceilings than we do, so that's it. And to get it in here, we had a little bit of trouble. They had to take it and lower it down here with a crane, reinforce the floorboards underneath it so it wouldn't go crashing down to the basement. So if the Met ever decides they want it back, they have to figure out how to get it out of here. But hopefully they won't want it back because we really like it here. And it's appropriate that it's a memorial to Poe.
Hi Mel.
In the memorial building. This whole building right here is called the Elizabeth after Poe's mother. It was built in 1927 before Poe's mother even had a monument on her grave. They built this memorial. So that's a little bit about one of our nice sculptures here. So definitely in the flesh, it's two different kinds of bronze. it said that the dedication exercise from the arts community and all over the country, people came to check it out. There's a different story about this little guy. This is the plaster model Poe that's at the Virginia State Capitol.
Hi, Dan.
So if you have a chance to visit the Virginia State Capitol, it's right up in Capitol Square, sort of in the northwest corner, near where the General Assembly building is going to be. Now this was an intermediate stage in the process. The sculptor Rudy would have done this in clay and then would have made the molds, cast in plaster, showed this to the client, and then cast it in bronze once it had been approved, the bronze plaster. And this was commissioned by Charles Barksdale, who was a physician here in Virginia. He had southwest rural area, pretty much self-taught, but loved literature. From an early age, he would work in a general store, reading the works of Poe. And then he became a successful physician, went to college, and it was one day in the 1950s, he visited the Poe Cottage in the Bronx, and he saw that they had a bust of Poe up there. So he decided that Richmond needed Poe.
Hi, Pam. Hi, Ingrid.
New York had statues. Baltimore had a great statue. So he said, Richmond deserves a statue in his hometown. Trying to get a statue going back to 1906. They wanted to build a statue of Poe in Richmond, and the city didn't really want it. They couldn't get support. So this guy, he spent his own money, and he purchased this. Yeah, sat in storage for 3 years while they figured out what to do with it. When they finally did play, they really deserved to be up at the top of the hill with George Washington and Patrick Henry and everybody. But they found a much more poetic spot. They placed the bronze of this directly across the street from where his first great love, Jane Stannard, used to live. He dedicated his poem to Helen to her. And in that poem, he mentioned seeing her standing statue-like in her window niche. So he placed the statue across the street where Poe could have seen her stand.
Hey, Pam, thanks for letting us know about the video. We're in a spot that has Wi-Fi, so thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, just hang on in there. And this, we actually found out about in 2014. We got a call one day that there was a museum in Pennsylvania, the James A. Michener Museum, that had been given the entire. And they called us up and said, we have a life-size statue of Poe. If you can pick it up, you can have it. So we were able to get one of our trustees who, has a Hickory Farms franchise. He went up there with the Hickory Farms van and he picked this up and brought it down here where it's still on display. And we're glad to have this great example of Poe sculpture. I hope you'll be able to come and see them in the plaster, in the marble, in the flesh.
And so you guys know this arm is usually in storage, but we were able to pull it out and put it on today to show you, since there's not too many folks here. We get a lot of questions about, where's his arm? And there it is. Now you know.
There you go. Well, thanks for joining us today, and stick around. We'll have more video for you in the coming days and weeks. So keep on following, and thank you for your support.
Thanks,
and
folks.
Thanks for the disembodied voice.
And one more visual for Edgar. There he is. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. Join us soon.